I really want a new outlet for talking about books on the internet. I used to run an online arts and literature magazine, and I started a book club in January of 2024, which sadly had to close because I needed to focus on prioritizing my health. So I kind of thought this year I would give talking about books on YouTube a go. So in 2025, I read a total of 65 books, which is more than my average, but it's not the most I've ever read in a year. I still think it was my best year of reading because of how much I enjoyed myself and what I discovered and how I engaged with literature. I kept a reading journal for the first time since university, where I tracked everything that I read month by month. And then I also included short stories and essays at the back. But when I wanted to, I would reflect on what I read. I would copy down quotes, I'd do research, or if I didn't feel like doing that, I would just kind of write out some of the thoughts and feelings that I was having, or the impression that the book left on me afterwards. This is a really fun habit and something that I'm going to continue in 2026. I'm just going to talk about some of the things that I read this year that I really loved and I think just deserve a little bit of attention. I'm not going to go through what my absolute favourites are, and I'm not going to go for any categories. I kind of just picked the things from my shelf that I wanted to talk about, and I hope that kind of casual structure is interesting. The first book that I want to talk about is from a writer that I've never read before, who I've been meaning to read for a long time, and that's Simone de Beauvoir, and this book is The Woman Destroyed. So it's three internal monologues from three different women who come from various class and social backgrounds, but who are all in the grips of an existential crisis. They're all aging, often going through some sort of betrayal and reckoning with time and age, basically. It's an incredibly beautiful book. There's a really nice quote that I want to read out that I copied down from the first story. But I'm just very happy that I've finally discovered Simone de Beauvoir, and she's definitely a writer that I'm going to be coming back to. This is the quote from the first story, The Age of Discretion. I wrenched myself out of these dark clouds. I went down into the streets. I looked at the sky, the shabby houses. Nothing moved me at all. The moonlight and the sunset, the smell of showery spring and hot tar, the brilliance and the changing of the year. I have known moments that had the pure blaze of a diamond, but they have always come without being called for. They used to spring unexpectedly, an unlooked for tune, an unhoped for promise, cutting across the activities that insisted upon my presence. I would enjoy them almost illicitly, coming out of the lycée or the exit of a metro, or on my balcony between two sessions of work, or hurrying along the boulevard to meet Andre. Now I walked about Paris free, receptive, and frigidly indifferent. My overflowing leisure handed me the world, and at the same time prevented me from seeing it. Just as the sun, filtering through the closed Venetian blinds on a hot afternoon, makes the whole magnificence of summer blaze in my mind, if I face its direct harsh glare, it blinds me. The next book I want to talk about is another writer that I discovered for the first time this year, and that's Magda Szabo and her book The Door. This is a really brilliant novel. She's a master of characterization and structure. She really writes a novel that has a mystery at the centre of it. That mystery being Emerence, the domestic servant of a writer who is the one who tells this story. And it's the unfurling of this strange relationship between the writer and Emerence, and the strange power dynamics in it, and the kind of love and resentfulness that exists there. At the centre of the novel, as I said, is this kind of mystery, and that's really what pulls you down into it. And I think that is just really great writing. One book I finished this year, which I've been reading for a while, is Silvia Federici's Caliban and the Witch, Women, the Body and Primitive Accumulation. Primitive accumulation is basically what happened in the lead up to capitalism, And this book is about the way the human body is treated in relation to capitalism, and particularly the role of philosophy like Cartesian dualism, so that's the separation between the mind and the body, the idea that they're two separate things, how women's autonomy over our bodies and fertility and reproduction is kind of the key to creating labour power that is necessary for creating capitalism, and basically kind of how that was done. It's a really incredible book. The Lonely City by Olivia Laing is another book that I've been meaning to read for years and finally got round to it this year, and I'm so glad that I did, because she's a really wonderful writer, incredibly eloquent, and just has very interesting things to say about very wide themes like loneliness. She manages to blend like art history, art criticism with like personal essays, and that's just something that I absolutely always love to read. A writer that I returned to this year who I love is Clarice Lispector, and I read The Passion According to G.H. The premise of this book is a woman walks into her maid's room and sees a cockroach and then has an existential crisis, which is kind of just the perfect premise to a story for me. She's an incredible writer, and I'm trying to pace myself with how much of her that I read. I read A Breath of Life for the first time in 2024. I actually did that for my book club, and yeah, it was just shattering. Like, all of her work is so shattering. It completely upends you and makes you question everything, your whole identity and the fabric of reality, which is an amazing feat to do that while talking about a woman seeing a cockroach, and also doing it with like such beauty. So yeah, I'm not surprised that she's really gained traction and popularity recently, because she really deserves it. She's an incredible writer. I also returned to another author I love, which is Dostoevsky, of course. I read Crime and Punishment many years ago, and it's one of my favourite novels of all time. So I've heard that The Brothers Karamazov is kind of his best work ever. Lots of people, it's their favourite. So again, I want to pace myself with him. So I thought I'd read some other things, and I read The Idiot. This took me a long time to finish, and it took me a long time to get into. But I will say the ending, the conclusion of this novel is one of the most beautiful and dark endings to a novel that I've ever read. So I ended up loving it, but I had to be patient with it. I didn't find it very interesting for a lot of the book. But yeah, Dostoevsky, as always, he's worth persisting with. A book that I've been meaning to read for so long is Nausea by Jean-Paul Sartre. I have had this copy since I was 15, and on reading it, I wish I had read it when I was 15. I kind of was disappointed by it. I kind of thought there was going to be more to it, that it was going to affect me in a more profound way. I feel like what the novel explores, I've already encountered a lot before, especially, I don't know, maybe it's because I've read Clarice Lispector, and I think that although this is sort of the quintessential existentialist novel, try saying that 3 times fast. Yeah, I don't know, there was something lacking, and I don't know what I was expecting, but I was expecting to be more profoundly moved, and I wasn't, and maybe it's me, or maybe it's Sartre. Another non-fiction that I think everyone really should read is Doppelganger by Naomi Klein. This book is about her doppelganger, who is Naomi Wolf, known as the other Naomi, who wrote The Beauty Myth. And this is about the fact that they always get mixed up. Yeah, it's interesting that now Naomi Wolf has gone down the anti-vax alt-right pipeline, that people are getting them mixed up still. And yeah, so she writes about digital selves, digital doppelgangers, what it means to perform on the internet as I'm doing now. Made me want to stop posting on social media. This next one is the last book I read this last year. I need to stop saying this year. And that's My Brilliant Friend by Elena Ferrante. This is just as good as everyone says it is. It completely deserves the hype. I was completely hooked from the first page. And yeah, it's, as everyone says, like there's so much, if you're a young woman, you can see so much of yourself and your own relationships in the dynamic between Elena and Lena. Yeah, I can't wait to like read the rest of the Neapolitan Quartet. The theme, I read the Memoirs of a Dutiful Daughter by Simone de Beauvoir. Also possibly one of the best things I read this year. It's the story of Simone growing up as a middle-class French bourgeoisie girl and how the restrictions and privileges of her class and gender, how they shape her. And it's also about her being a young existentialist and a woman who stops believing in God, which is a very beautiful thing, I think. The Piano Teacher by Elfriede Jelinek was one of the first books I read last year, and this was, although a very disturbing and difficult novel to get through because of the content, a really well constructed book. It's told from the point of view of an unnamed narrator, and as I've written in my journal, the style of narration in this book is such a unique reading experience because of how emotionally distant it is, yet how you know the thoughts and feelings of the characters intimately. So there's basically an omniscient narrator who kind of watches all of the events and scenes of the novel unfold. You can kind of watch them from a slight remove, and I think that's the only possible way to read a novel like this because of how dark and disturbing it is. Yeah, it's about a very toxic mother-daughter relationship. It's about self-harm, and it's about a lot. It's also a really brilliant film. If you haven't seen it, I would recommend it, but it's one that you should proceed with caution. That really surprised me with how much I enjoyed it this year was William Faulkner's As I Lay Dying. I've never read any Faulkner before, but yeah, he's a modernist writer and I love modernism. I didn't actually realise that at the time. I knew basically nothing about him, but I've been wanting to read him for years, and yeah, I finally did, and it was just a really transcendental reading experience. The premise of the book is the mother of a family dies, and it's her dying wish to be buried in the next county over. They're a very poor white family in a made-up county in America, but it's told from multiple different characters' perspectives. And then the family go on this journey after she dies, and it's kind of an homage to Homer's The Odyssey, of course. Any book with a journey, you have to talk about the Odyssey. But the title actually comes from a quote from the Odyssey, from Agamemnon. The quote for As I Lay Dying's title comes from Homer's The Odyssey, spoken by Agamemnon. He tells Odysseus of his wife. As I lay dying, the woman with the dog's eyes would not close my eyelids for me as I descended into Hades. So it's when Odysseus is in the land of the dead, and he speaks to Agamemnon about his death. This book moved me incredibly, and it was so strange at times. There were lots of... it was quite hard to understand what was happening in the novel. And who was saying what, and even who was what at times. There are like passages where the son Jewel has a horse, and then there are points at which you can't tell if a character is talking about Jewel or talking about his horse. it was just such a unique and destabilizing reading experience. Another non-fiction that I really want a lot of people to read this year was Silenced Women, and this was co-written by two female lawyers. One of them was the lawyer for Amber Heard's UK trial. It's about defamation law and how defamation law is used to silence women who are speaking up about sexual assault and domestic violence. It goes through loads and loads of case studies from all over the world, from so many different social and economic backgrounds, and it does include Amber Heard's story in there as well. So I know a lot of people are getting more curious and kind of I'll try and keep it brief because I could speak about this topic a lot, and if I start going into it, I won't be able to stop myself. Lots of people are getting curious about what happened really during the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard trial, and yeah, I think just if you want to go out and research, this is a good start. You should also check out the podcast Who Trolled Amber Heard by Tortoise Media. Kind of on a similar theme is Milkman by Anna Burns, which won the Booker Prize quite a few years ago. Yeah, this book was really incredible. It's about a young girl in Belfast, although there are no names and everything is anonymised, but it is quite clear that it's Belfast, who begins to get stalked by a Republican paramilitary. Anna Burns uses a stream of consciousness narrative in a really powerful way. We experience this novel through the perspective of the protagonist, and we see the way that she gets treated and the way she is completely bound and silenced by the social and political contexts of her time and place. Prose is deliberately very guarded and hard to penetrate. As I said, like, things are completely anonymised and you don't really get any explicit emotions, but things are just revealed as they happen. And yeah, I really highly recommend this book. This was also one of my favourite reads this year. This is Art Monsters by Lauren Elkin, who is a really brilliant writer. She writes kind of a thesis or an exploration of what the word monster means and what it means in relation to the body and making art, and how feminist artists and female artists confront the reality of our bodies. The word monster has a multifaceted meaning. It can be something that is excluded by society, and it means ugly and mutated and is like a rebelliousness, or it has a meaning rooted in Saint Augustine, which is to mean wonder and awe and sort of like God's wondrousness. So yeah, Lauren Elkin takes that and basically uses that thesis to analyse a series of female artists and their artworks and what it means to be like an art monster. So that's something that kind of exists between boundaries and contains different meanings. And she's a writer who's really good at pulling from seemingly disparate topics or historical contexts and artworks and pulling them together and tying them thematically. So yeah, I really enjoy everything that she writes. And she's got another non-fiction book called Vocal Break coming out soon, which is about women, music and power in the voice. So that is completely up my street, so I'm really looking forward to that too. The very last book I want to talk about is a book that was published in 2025, and that's Dog Days by Emily Labarge. Like Lauren, Emily is another writer who is really good at drawing from a wide range and quite disparate references to film and art and music, and using them to weave into her personal narrative to explore the themes that she's writing about. And the main theme that she's writing here is this concept of the good story in relation to trauma narrative. So in Christmas 2009, Emily and her family were taken hostage at gunpoint, and she was told by people afterwards, this is a great story, or this is a good story, you have to write about this. And what she kind of writes about instead is the impossibility of writing about such a thing and doing it justice. You can't really write about trauma without writing about trauma. It's a very weird thing, and it's a topic that I am really interested in and do a lot of research on. But yeah, this is a very interesting and thought-provoking memoir / essay memoir. Okay, I think that is everything